Mr. Obu, good morning and welcome to the program. Compliments of the season to you. It's nice to see you. Now, without further ado, let's go into the matter on discuss. Talk us through your thoughts when you saw the news of the resignation of the NMDPRA and NUPRC bosses.
Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you in the studio.
But kindly check that you're not muted at your end.
Sorry about the earlier glitch. Like I said, my name is Maobuye Nangi Obu. I'm the Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide. Going just directly to the topic, NMDPRA is Nigerian Midstream Downstream Gas Petroleum Regulatory Authority, which by the PRA law, Section 52, gave rise to this very agency to regulate the midstream downstream gas infrastructure funds. Now, without getting very personal into the individuals in question, there are two gladiators that are fighting. Dangote, a very shrewd businessman that always wants to be the only human to do business. I'm not in support of Dangote. However, he has also come up with a good story about the man. But sometime on September 19th, I was live in Lagos with Channels Television, because I have really researched about the NMDPRA, and I told Nigerians that there's heavy corruption going on in the NMDPRA. And, people didn't take me seriously. But today, billionaire Dangote has also opened up the kind of worms, and God be praised that this is happening. But like I said, Dangote is another shrewd businessman who wants to take it all, who wants to be the only human being in Nigeria that does a particular type of business. But going to the corruption in the NMDPRA, first of all, have the statutory right to regulate the activities of the midstream downstream gas infrastructure fund, headed by a gentleman called Mr. Adama also. Now, the MDGIF is underperforming because of the underperformance of the the MDGIF, midstream downstream gas infrastructure funds, is because of the high-handedness of the NMDPRA, that's Engineer Farouk. Meanwhile, there has been accusations that Engineer Farouk, is involved in some level of corruption, trying to sabotage the federal government's efforts by trying to import fuel because he has a particular interest in a particular oil company. But this is an allegation. However, he also made good points that Dangote's refinery, is a fluke itself. And indeed, we say these things. I'm in Niger Delta. They trumped our crude from the south here down to Obodo, Lagos, and making sure that Dangote refinery does not have any place within Port Harcourt, within the Niger Delta. But Lagos is the best place for it. But the refinery itself can only perform 45%. So the rest we hear is a fluke. So same thing the petroleum minister talked about the Port Harcourt refinery, where he lied, our own brother, lied to us that Port Harcourt refinery will come on stream and never came because they were not ready. So it tells you the Tinubu's administration had always been on this lying spree.
Mr. Obu, we must appreciate you for the background you've created into the story from your research, and
I just want you to understand what is going on.
Yes, I want us to also carry our viewers along. I know you have a lot to say, but let's take these individuals and entities one after the other so that we establish a timeline from when it became more. Yes. So now, the earliest timeline, Nigerians became aware of some of the misgivings and feud between NMDPRA and Dangote was mid-July 2024, when the NMDPRA said that the quality of diesel from Dangote refinery had a sulfur content way above the West Africa required limit, saying it had over 60 to 120 parts per million. Dangote issued a rebuttal recently following that allegation, saying that the NMDPRA had not subjected his diesel to any laboratory tests. That was the first time Nigerians came on board that these two parties might have a rift. So let's pick this issue's timeline and then get your findings as well as we talk about the timeline of corruptions which you perceived as well. What was your take on that finding in mid-July 2024 on the quality of his diesel with the allegations on a sulfur content higher than the required average?
Okay, so if you want to really understand how Dangote works, I like the fact that I'm proud of Dangote, the fact that he's the richest black man or African and he's a Nigerian. No grudge. I don't begrudge him. But the truth is this, yeah. Look at the activities of Dangote. He produces cement, and his cement must always be the best. For example, Boa cement shouldn't come. Lafarge and the rest would not work. It must always be Dangote. So Dangote has a particular trend, and that's why I say he's a shrewd businessman. But the truth is this: what do you expect? The average businessman wants to maximize profit, but Dangote wants to go at all costs. There has also been accusations about from his own kinsmen, his kith and kin, that he should tell us what happened in Port Harcourt, that's Dangote, in the 80s, how he made his money and how he became this type of businessman. So Dangote is also not free, just like what I'm a Christian. Sorry, everybody mustn't be. But our Lord Jesus Christ said, "He who is without sin should first of all cast the first stones." Now the NMDPRA, to be very downright on principle, for people to say that NMDPRA do not have a laboratory where they can test this thing. What I'm trying to say is that I need to give a balanced argument. I am also one of the first young persons, I would say, on the 19th of September, and I accuse the NMDPRA boss because I have gone through what they do and I understand that there's heavy corruption. So on the corruption charges, that's correct. But does it absolve Dangote from also having his executive high-handedness? No. So the truth is this. I will tell you that until we take a neutral position by taking the diesel and take it to another lab for Nigerians to test that before we'll be able to ascertain. But I am not sure that the NMDPRA boss will just come out in the public and give such information if it's not correct. You understand? So it's only for Dangote, in my mind, or to my understanding, Dangote for it's left for Dangote to just live up to expectation. Living up to expectation in this, what I mean by that is doing the right thing. Go back to the drawing board and understand that you need to do this. You need to get.
Now, Mr. Obu,
there's a approved number of about 50 or so, but we are having about 120, 150. That's way high and substandard. So Dangote should work on his own. But
so don't you think
the accusations from the NMDPRA?
Don't you think that this is an indictment on the regulators? Because if they had such a finding and they were sure of what they found out, there should be some kind of enforcement and there should be repercussions for doing or for, going against the standard that we set. So it's not enough to cry foul. What do you think the regulators should have done when they discovered that he was, carrying petrol with more sulfur than it should have?
Okay, so let me tell you, Nigeria is a country that lives with sentiment. Now, when you begin to appoint people because of water system, because of cashment, not because of competence. And now here, competence is not about certificated competence, where people go to school and because they are certificated, they have their engineers, their doctors, their whatever, and you appoint them into something. I have said it before, and I'll say it again, that there's heavy corruption in the regulator, more especially the NMDPRA itself. The NDGIF is the one that's the midstream downstream gas infrastructure funds is supposed to take care of you and I, because all of these the downstream sector of the gas or whatever that affects you and I, gas cylinders, giving us small gas plants and all of that. It is the statutory responsibility of the NDGIF. But because of the regulator who thinks it's high, that's the NMDPRA. A lot of these things are yet to be seen by Nigerians, not because the MDGIF and other agencies under the supervision of the NMDPRA decided to underfunction or underperform, but because of the executive high-handedness of the regulator and the big man there who today has resigned, have decided to now, think he wants to overdo certain things. So there's heavy corruption. It tells you incompetence. But now, our president has just made another nomination. I am first of all happy that he still think, that in Niger Delta, I am happy that in Niger Delta was nominated to replace this person. However, this same Niger Delta was the same woman, Miriwa, that removed the only Ijaw man we have in the NNPC, Advocate Maobuye. Now, this same woman is being elevated or moved again because maybe she's the only expert we have. But I was thinking that we have, a local content boss who is also something at Ogbe or so, who is a Insecurity man. bringing another Shekiri again from the Niger Delta. Maybe because the president's wife is also Shekiri, but this is another sentiment altogether, another kettle of fish. But the truth is that the regulators have underperformed, and I feel and I pray that Mayowa will not, mess Nigerians up just like our predecessor did last, Mr. Farouk.
Now,
So the regulators are nothing to write home about. I agree with you on that.
Now, Mr. Obu, away from the regulators, let's talk about your perceived high-handedness of Aliko Dangote and the Dangote refinery. Now, we talked about the need to prioritize local production, the Nigerian first policy of the government. But in mid-June of 2025, it was even heated in the courtrooms before a withdrawal of the legal suits as filed by Alhaji Aliko Dangote challenging the NMDPRA and the NNPCL, requesting over 100 billion naira, saying that these two bodies continue to issue licenses for the importation of oil as against the desire to optimize local production. Before the withdrawal of that suit, what was your perception of the legal action at the time?
See, if you're every human being who must have invested a lot of money into a particular business will always do everything to protect his business. So I do not expect somebody like Dangote to shy away from protecting what is his. I am not here to speak on behalf of Dangote. I'm not here also to bring him down. But like I said, the truth must be told to Nigerians. Dangote have the penchant of always want to monopolize every business he gets into. Dangote is seen like a Superman because of certain corners that have been cut within the business area. And like I tell you, he can pursue anything legal, maybe somebody has accused him or whatever, he can do anything. But the truth is this, why is it that we so rely on only Dangote sugar, Dangote this, Dangote that? Why are not others performing or also even competing with Dangote? So perhaps this could be the grouse, with Mr. Farouk, and Farouk sees that. But there's also another sideline accusation that Mr. Farouk, has a particular interest in a particular oil company. So that's why he wanted more importation, unlike relying on Dangote. But he also gave a salient point. The salient point is that can Dangote refinery alone take care of Nigeria's demand of our daily PNS? No. Can he take care of our demand of our daily AGO? No, Dangote cannot, because it can only but perform maybe even less than 45%. And that is a fact. It's a big fact. Even Walter Smith and the rest of them, they are not being allowed to function. And the federal government is also killing local modular refineries around. And that's why we made a proposition, people like us, myself in particular, by saying instead of killing the boys, turning our people into megadis in the Niger Delta by going to kill people, from getting themselves into oil bunkering. Get the act of these boys, give them the crude, help them set up proper modular refineries, and daily they will begin to churn out particular amount of crude, standard level, and they pay a particular sum to the federal government. You make money, and these boys make money.
But what you have said now seems to resonate with what Dangote said. What he said is that the price of import is high, so the volume of import should be reduced to encourage local refineries. He has equally said that when you take all the import out, or you take the high volume of import that is being taken, that you encourage industries abroad to employ more persons and do more business, whereas our local refineries are suffering. So what do you think when you look at it from the perspective that it is the volume of import that he was up against and not that there should be no import at all? Do you think that there was any threat to our local refineries with our high volume of imports?
Please, let me ask you a question. Do we have any local refinery that is functioning other than the so-called perceived Dangote refinery? Walter Smith, how have they treated Walter Smith, for example? The modular refineries, about 2 in Benin, are they optimal? Are they functioning?
Exactly the point. Exactly the point.
So why are we not going to rely on importation? For example, see, Mr. Farouk on that got it very right. Dangote is always somebody who is monopolistic in terms of doing business. And that's why I say he's a shrewd businessman when it comes to his own business interests. And I don't begrudge him, because everybody wants to maximize it. But the truth is that he do not have, and he does not have the capacity. His so-called refinery cannot, for now, give us the daily PMS demand or ADO and the rest? Does he produce kerosene? People still use kerosene. Nigeria is such a mess that we still rely on kerosene, firewood, and the rest of them. What does Dangote truly produce?
He's
It's
doing
not about
650 barrels per day. Is Nigeria
so is
buying
that
all of the
uh,
650 barrels per day of Dangote?
why are we still having if we get that type of so-called 50,000 and 150,000 barrels, this is
650.
like that 650 by the books, is by the books. Actual is that, have you confirmed that actual that's what we get? Then why are we not PMS sufficient in the country? Why are we still having different prices? You go to this gas station, they will sell it for 1,500 per liter, and some people will say it's 950 naira per liter.
Now,
This
Mr.
one is
Obu,
still giving
Mr.
you.
Obu,
So what is
it's also in
happening?
the place of the regulator in terms of the data which you and my colleague Francesca are debating on to provide the data. Up until now, away from the likes of Saudi Aramco and the Arabian countries, Nigeria cannot put a finger on our daily consumption as a country. It's largely debated in different quarters. And NMDPR is reporting of our fuel consumption and production figures as well. One of the factors that are being misrepresented. But going forward, these discussions of monopoly versus competition will continue to linger on. However, many are optimistic that this change of heads with the NMDPRA boss and NUPRC boss both resigning, the new persons who are supposed to step into the hem of affairs pending a Senate confirmation will be able to clean up the sector. Do you think it's just by changing figureheads that we need to clean the amount of corruption, in your words, that exists in the NMDPRA and the NUPRC?
Okay, so let me be a bit critical also on the lady coming to take over from Mr. Farah. Like I said, this was the same lady that took over from Engineer Dr. Tombomiri, who was then CEO upstream of the NNPC. He's a Niger Delta and is Ijaw. I represent Ijaw ethnic nationality, and as a leader in my own right, I think I will always want to protect the rights and privileges of Ijaw people, not over the entirety of Nigerians. Now, when Meiwa came in, what has she done differently other than what Engineer Dr. was doing in the NNPC? I'm not against that. But it was just what I call subtle cleansing of Ijaw people. This was a case of, Asaba versus Wari. What do I mean by that? When Babangida was president of Nigeria or head of state, and a Delta state was created, originally we were told that Wari was supposed to be the capital city, and his wife, Ibu is from Asaba, said no, it must go to where she is from. So then you and I we understand that the first lady, Oluremi Tinubu, is a Shekiri. So Shekiris are now taking center stage, and the Jaws in the Niger Delta should go to hell. And that's because you are given a statutory position of ministerial appointment, a statutory ministerial appointment. There's a law in Nigeria that every state must have a minister. I'm answering your question, I'm driving somewhere. That every state must have one minister at least. So the minister representing Bayelsa State, it's not Ijaw. It's Ijaw by tribe, but that is not the slot. You have not done Ijaw people any favor. So where is the position of the Ijaws, who happen to be, according to you, the fourth largest ethnic nationality in Nigeria? The Ijaws are nowhere in this level of administration. So this woman coming, what did she do in the NNPC? How well did she revamp that sector where she came to dislodge the man who is Ijaw that was there because of the current hate of Ijaw people? So what do you think she would do differently?
Well, can we really say it's a hate or based on non-performance? Because
no, it's not performance. It's not performance. Let me give you an instance. What has she done differently? What did she do differently in the NNPC? Now she's coming to head the NMDPR. It is just community slots. It is because the first lady is Shekiri. And that is why
it's important to put in your opinion, because many would argue. I see your point where you're talking about the need for federal character in the appointments of.
Listen, when you bring federal character and you bring a Buffon, I'm not saying she's one. That I didn't call her a Buffon, but because a Buffon
30 years of experience in the sector and having headed one of the subsidiaries, she definitely cannot be classified as a buffoon.
No, I didn't say she is. Don't get me wrong. I don't misquote me. I said federal character is a problem in this country. So anybody can represent the particular state. In this case, it's not federal character, it's ethnicity. Ethnicity. It has to do with, the president's wife trying to protect her own over the real people or those who ought to be carried along within the system. Now, I am happy that at least, a Niger Delta is coming to replace Engineer Farouk. That's fine. I thank the president for that. But why are they not looking for, maybe a Rivers Ijaw man, Delta Ijaw, Ondo Ijaw, Edo Ijaw, or Akwa Ibom Ijaw or something? Because Ijaws are the fourth ethnic nationality. I mean, largest ethnic nationality in Nigeria. So what would she do differently? What did she do differently when she dislodged Engineer Adoke Sogbonne? That's the question I'm putting forward to
Okay, let's
anybody
now
who's
look
listening.
at
What did she do differently? So I am not optimistic that she's coming to do. She doesn't have the magic wand to perform more than even what Mr. Farouk had done. What did she do differently? She's just coming from another position to another. So what did she do differently in that very position that she was in before this same one that she wants to come into? This is what you should ask. Maybe we'll begin to, zero in into her performance in the NNPC as executive vice chairman or whatever that she was. What did she do? So
Now
what is she doing
let's look
now?
at investors, right? We are all
Yes.
agitating for investors to come in, invest in the sector and help us to generate more revenue. Now when it comes to investors, they are looking at competence, they are looking at years of experience, they are looking at who you are using to replace who. Now she's been brought in after having spent over 30 years, that's over 3 decades in the sector. She's been brought in after heading a subsidiary. Don't you think that, picking out somebody might have had to do with the fact that they needed somebody that they could present to the international community that would attract and even retain? Don't forget, we have some investors already. Do you think that appointments were made in a way to ensure that we retain the confidence of those we have and attract more investors into the sector?
Okay, so let me tell you, Nigeria, at this point, we don't need people with cognate experience alone. We need to take care of our own. Now, the international community is looking at a whole lot. We thump up figures, we lie about even our daily BOP, our daily, oil, production in Nigeria. That is 1.8 million, 2 point something million, 1.4 million. The NNPC do not have the capacity to produce more than 400,000 barrels of crude per day. The only stream is now the NPL, then NPDC. They have about how many, fields that will produce. Then some part of Nappings. Nappings can only give you maybe about 50,000 barrels of crude per day. Then the NEPL, former NPDC, can only give you about 350,000 or 250,000 barrels of crude per day. The rest will come from the IOCs. Now, there's environmental despoliation, exploitation, and environmental desecration, we need environmental justice in the Niger Delta. So if you really want to bring investors, it's how well. Let me give you a particular fact. Fact check what I want to say. In 40 years, the European Union only recorded 10 oil spills. But in less than 10 years, Nigeria recorded about 8,334 oil spills in the Niger Delta. Why would people look at you as a serious entity? So changing, whether you bring a Nobel laureate, somebody with a Nobel laureate to change, and the real issue, the environment where you get this crude from, is not cleaned up, it's not breathing or not having a breather, it still makes you look as, whatever. I don't want to use words right now and get too emotional. So it's not about changing somebody or bringing somebody with certificated or certificates with high certificates or experience alone that counts. It's how you treat the locals. The people look at it. Go to Saudi Aramco. They stay in a particular room and record everything that happens. But the places where they get this crude from, the people are not sniffing gas. The people, there's still gas flaring even in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. We sell gas every day. We export it from the export terminal to NLNG in Bonny. Bonny does not produce all the gas. The gas are produced across the Niger Delta and moved through Bonny to NLNG. And billions of dollars come into Nigeria daily. Come to the Niger Delta. Let me take you around it. Nobody will kidnap you. I can assure you on that. And see the type of life we're living. We're dying, we're sniffing gas. So even if you bring a professor to head that very position, if you've not done your homework, the people will still look at the people from where you get these things from, and they still judge you with it. Yes, it's good to bring your best foot forward. She qualified in terms of the certificate, in terms of having studied and done all of these things. But we're looking at delivery. What did she do in the NNPC? She was the one who used to dislodge an German who was doing well. So when she came in, did she have the magic wand? Did she do anything different in the NNPC? So what we should do differently now is the question we're asking. She should tell us her track records in the very position she's leading now to ascend this very position.
Okay,
That's
you've
nothing to
mentioned
do with
gas
that.
flaring consistently. So early this month, we heard that contracts have been awarded to 28 companies to take up the issue of gas flaring and end gas flaring. And it is projected that that is going to attract 2 billion naira investment and also provide 100,000 naira jobs. What do you think about this move to end gas flaring in the Niger Delta?
Nigeria is not a serious country in terms of leadership. Now, at the level of the United Nations, Nigeria always go to the United Nations to ask of what they call reparation. What it means is that kill the people, let them sniff gas, you don't give a heck, but pay us for environmental justice for all the things you've done. Let's look at in terms of plastics. The US is the highest producer of plastics, but what do? They produce these plastics in different countries like Nigeria and other parts. They dislodge these things as effluents in our areas. But what Nigerians and other very local, unfortunate leadership around Africa, they divided the world into two sets of people, say global north and global south. And they chunk everybody in a particular place, all the failing countries in a particular region, and they call themselves the global this or that. So what am I trying to say? Gas flaring, Nigeria has been signatory to gas flaring laws even before now, and they have never. What they do is that they still go back to these companies, and these companies pay them for flaring gas monthly. They pay either in lump sum or quarterly to the federal government. So the federal government is happy that we in the Niger Delta were sniffing the gas, and that it affects us, our performance, especially for the men, our testosterone, and the rest of them. That they don't really care about it. So coming to bring up companies, who are these companies that they have, nominated? There's a way they always, treat us in the Niger Delta, and we fall for it. The carrot and stick model. They created pipeline surveillance jobs, and our people are scrambling for it and becoming migradis to pipelines owned by Northerners and Southeasterners and Yorubas, not Niger Deltans. But the pipes are in your region. You are the security of it. Now they are nominating companies that will take care of gas flaring and whatsoever and all that. This is another surveillance kind of jobs that they are coming up with. So this is the type of thing that they want to use to empower our people, and because it's cheap money, people want to scramble for it. But let me tell you, that thing will fail. It's dead on arrival already, because it takes the federal government. There are laws already that stops gas flaring. The federal government have failed to enact those laws because they go behind to collect money for flaring gas from these IOCs.
Now,
All
Mr.
the
Obu,
IOCs, all the fuel stations are flaring gas.
Mr. Obu,
All of the fuel stations.
Mr.
Yes,
Obu,
sir.
as much as these concerns on the environmental degradation are pertinent to have, and the agitations from Niger Deltans, much like yourself, will continue, it's with the hope that we set the works in rolling to build on the successes of past agitators to see that the cleanup required, the justification for jobs and employment of Niger Deltans into high positions are much a thing to reckon with. The next appointment, however, happens to be a person who contributed to some of these laws you're demanding for in terms of the PIA, and also has a BSc in chemical engineering from Ahmadu Bello University, talking about engineer Saudu Ahmed Mohammed, who is now supposed to replace the outgone Farouk Ahmed at the helm of affairs at the NMDPRA, pending confirmation by the Senate. Now, when you look at his person and the wealth of experience he comes to bear, I'm very sure the Northerners who also look to have a stake in the NMDPRA will be looking at it as a replacement that might not be viewed as ethnic cleansing in some stead. He has also been part of the non-executive directors at Seplat Energy as a leadership role. He's also been part of the board of West African Gas Pipelines, Nigerian LNG subsidiary, and NNPC, not forgetting his work he did as Group Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer, Gas and Power Directorate, where he was involved in shaping key gas policies and framework, including the Gas Master Plan and Gas Network Codes. What do you make of his nomination?
I'll just ask him one question. He has worked with all the public experience that he has. Where do they, dislodge their effluent from produced water, sorry. how he understands how they've been killing us in the Niger Delta. So he's only but coming for money. He has all the experience. He didn't do right whilst he was there. I'm telling you that these people, most of them, they just fly with shopper to, as if he has even been to Bonny before. He will just be there to see certain things. He stays in the IA, Aroe, and all of those best of areas. Does he understand what happens in a place called Cotton Channel, where people steal crude and they flare gas and there's spillage every day, even this minute as we speak? Do you understand? So these people, there's nothing different that they will do. It's not his land, so doesn't really care. They're up not there, they are enjoying what they can enjoy. But we're here, we can die, and our people have been, given guns and bullets with money to protect the pipelines for people not to access it. So I am not questioning the person's certification that you have the experience. No, it's not it. What are you coming to do for the Niger Delta? We will engage him if it's not going to be like another party. We need certain things. Let me give you a simple example. CNG buses are not in the Niger Delta, but they have it in Lagos and in Abuja. I don't know what part of Nigeria you're talking to me from, but if you're in Abuja, you enjoy CNG buses. But the CNG itself is produced here in the Niger Delta. I'm just giving you the simplest thing that is going on. And whatever they do, if it's not Lagos, it's Abuja. The Niger Delta should go to hell. Let me give you a simple example again. NLNG, that gets everything A to Z from the Niger Delta. Whenever they want to have their end of year party or end of year programs that will at least boost the economy in the Niger Delta, they take it to either Lagos or Abuja. Recently, they just had one where there's a shift or a change of government. By end of this month, the guy who is leaving, I think Michelle, is now moving to to Doha as an executive something in the gas, whatever communities or countries, and somebody else is taking over. That program took place in Abuja. I'm just telling you, these are the needless things, but they are northerners. Even when, so how many times have we had people on Niger Deltas? Why are we not part of the oil governance? These are things that you would ask, and when people agitate, they will misconstrue our activities and say we are militants. I'm not scared of being called a militant, but the truth is that the truth must be said. I am not against anybody being appointed. Tomorrow I may be appointed into something, and I'll be happy, for example. So I'm not saying they shouldn't, but what are you coming to do tonight, or for Nigerians, and more especially the host communities in Niger Delta?
Okay, so
So these are issues.
this brings us to the issue of representation. You have people at the National Assembly, at the House of Rep, and at the Senate that speak for you guys at the Niger Delta. Has there been efforts to engage these people? Do you have quarterly engagements with your representatives to remind them of these issues you've brought to the fore today and to ask them what they are doing at the National Assembly to put forth your issues and get solutions for you?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Let me also tell you this. We operate what we call representative democracy in Nigeria, where it means all of us cannot all go to the National Assembly to speak for ourselves. So they have to put us into constituencies and senatorial districts or whatsoever, right? How many of this? So by right, ideally, before an assembly member goes to the floor of the assembly to okay anything, he should have what they call town hall with the constituency he's representing, the communities or the people. That has never happened. Same thing happening to the federal constituencies and also the senatorial district. How many senators have come to do what they call senatorial whatever town hall, where they will ask, oh, there's this issue. What do you want as a people? What position would you want me to take? That is what they call proper representation. Everybody is scrambling to go out there to be in the National Assembly or State Assembly because of their pockets and that they want to be connected. So I understand that that's a flaw, but it's not only a flaw that is particular, it's not an isolated case. It's not isolated to the Niger Delta people alone. It happens also in up north and and also to the Yoruba nation and also other parts. So it is not just for the Niger Delta people, it's a Nigerian syndrome. It's a bad political culture we are bequeathed to successive governments that come behind. So that's it. So there has never been anything like proper representation. But it's a shame we do not have senators in the Niger Delta. There is no senator. I'm sorry, I don't want to say certain things you don't like that, but we do not have senators.
Okay, so let's go ahead and set the agenda. Let's go ahead and set the agenda for the new people that are coming on board. Let's assume they are confirmed. And then what are those key issues you would like to see them hit the ground running with?
Okay, so before I go into that, I will tell you that they will be confirmed. The Senate does not reject anybody. Even the last ambassadorial, the shameful ambassadorial list that we had expected that some questions will be asked, they were all told to take a bow because they are former this or former that or wives of this or that. So if it's in terms of clearing, they must clear them. It's a mandate thing. And everybody is standing on a mandate in this country, apart from those of us who are not standing on any mandate. But what is the agenda? For the NMDPRA, we will engage, we will engage. And if you like, you should listen to the business people that will engage him, not the real people that he is working for, the Niger Delta people and Nigerians. So the agenda is very simple. For my dear sister, Mayowa, I have nothing against her, but like I said, in local parlance, they said, "Na mess smell when you take no shit smell." We've seen her mess, like when we say like a fat. That's what I mean. It's local parlance in the NNPC. So moving up, to take over from Komolafe, it's I don't know what you did to earn you that, but it's also good that the Niger Delta is coming there. But we'll see what you will do differently, because you haven't done anything different from what Abdulkato Momoye was doing, that he was removed and you were replaced with it. Meanwhile, Melekiari was allowed to stay beyond, because himself and Abdulkato Momoye were supposed to leave the same time. So that's why I say it's subtle cleansing. But now that Ijaw people are nowhere in this government, we will engage the space. We will see how they will catalyze development across the Niger Delta towns, cities, and our villages. Our people are dying. So as Niger Deltans, what I am interested in is that we sniff this gas. And gas is the way. We're the ones sniffing the gas, and it's affecting us. So we should come down to communities and engage with real stakeholders, not businessmen stakeholders that go to Abuja to see that I don't move to meet anybody. You're taking from me, come to me, and that's what I do. But I will engage this space. We will engage. Other people too will engage. We expect that they will do right, and not with sentiment, but they will begin to do right and bring the needed development to the Niger Delta. We do not need people with high certificates to man these positions. We need real Nigerians that will bring about the needed change within. And the people out there, outside in the diaspora, that look at us, they judge us based on the people you're living with. Just like it is said, that the God you see first is you and I. If you don't take care of this person,
All
how do you
right.
then say you love God?
All right.
So that's the point.
Mr. Obu, now speaking to the agencies where the two nominees are supposed to head, it's on being able to close the gaps in terms of regulatory functions. I would list a number of these functions as to how these engagements you speak about can bring to bear the much needed improvements. First off is local content. The Nigerian Oil and Gas Development Act mandates a bid to boost indigenous production. So far, so good. How would you rate its implementations in terms of adopting local content?
I would also always talk about my people. And that's where Dangote comes in. And that's one of the parts I don't like what Dangote does. You know, trying to sabotage other people and being the only man that does this thing. There should be a proper competition. It is like MTN. Dangote is the MTN of everything. But at least when MTN came, Obasanjo, we brought in MTN and all of that. There was Econet Wireless International, and there was a bit of competition. Then Glo came, but they still fought and fought and fought and fought. Today they have almost removed every other service provider, and MTN is still standing strong. And that's Dangote. The point is that Dangote does not even want that competition that Econet Wireless and Glo gave to MTN. He just wants to remain MTN for life. So if you want this to happen, you should begin to dissociate yourself, or from this sentiment that we see that somebody is bigger than any other person. No. And these are locals that get themselves involved in all these pipeline vandalism and all of that. These young men have developed a particular art. Why not get them together and develop them? Probably begin to.
Are you talking about artisanal refinery? Those who are engaging in poor fire?
Of course, yes. Because when you stop all of these things, I don't do that. I don't like it. I've been a proponent of environmental degradation, like fighting, making sure that environment is clean. I can go to my community today. Some of our communities, our first shipment, or the first shipments where we all moved from, like our local ports where we stayed before we moved to certain places where the oil and gas is being produced. So the point is that engage these young men, give them the needed art. Tell them you produce a certain amount of crude in a day, and they pay a particular sum to you. You engage a lot of people. That's the way locals can also participate. Not only Dangotes and water snakes and the rest of them. How many of us have the kind of money to get this, ourselves involved with the type of business that Dangote does? So it has not really helped. But I think if these people that are coming to replace this, other two guys that are leading, if they are serious-minded people, then I think that they will be able to do something. But if they are also going to play to the gallery, which I think they will, then I expect that nothing will happen. Nothing will really change. The only change we see is when the people are happy, not when the government is happy. It is
Now,
when the people are happy.
now, talking about the happiness of the people with respect to environmental degradation, methane emissions continue to be a worrying concern. You cited it. We've talked about the need to have divestments and tap Nigeria's untapped gas potential. However, it's a cautious optimism because even with the call to keep with international standards, our methane emissions remain at a worryingly high level. It's part of the purview of the NUPRC, that's an upstream activity, to be able to enforce regulations. How well do you see the new led NNPRC keeping to the call on ground?
Okay, so let me answer this by saying this again, driving you to in 2023 when this current administration came in, Melekere and Co, including this Maywan and the rest of them, went and borrowed what they call $3 billion from Afrexim Bank, and they said it's payable with crude. Now, the reason why they said they borrowed that $3 billion from Afrexim Bank was that they are to use it to show up the naira. They did four reasons. All was for naira devaluation, naira this, naira that, not because they want to develop the people. And I asked a question. I had a press conference and I asked them questions that how much of this $3 billion is coming to develop the Niger Delta people? Because at the end of the day, you deplete the reservoirs in the Niger Delta to be able to pay off. And how many years, as at that time when they took over, when they went into that business, crude price was about $75 or $71 per barrel, right? So how many years or months will it take the NNPC? Because NNPC cannot go into business with the share of Shell and the other, IOCs. You can only go into business with your own share of what you produce. And I just told you here that daily NNPC cannot produce more than 400,000 barrels of crude. I'm giving you the facts. I'm because I'm an industry person, right? But that's by the way. So coming back again to these issues, what did these people do? And what are they coming to do differently? They wouldn't do anything. Nothing. I don't expect anything different. I don't expect anything different. It's just about ethnic, protecting those who brought them into power, not, trying to catalyze development or reaching out to the people and making Nigerians happy and let us begin to live happy and let our environment be clean. When we say clean environment, let me give you another example. Shell divested its shallow water assets and they said they have sold it off to what we call Renaissance, which is a fluke already too. Now, Shell is still holding on to about its 25.6% equity share of NLNG. And it is these shallow water assets that produce or feeds NLNG that made you equity shareholder of NLNG. Who is fooling who in this country? So we have these things. Shell is still holding on to its position in NLNG, but you have sold off the assets that feeds this NLNG. So how are you now equity shareholder? They just sold these things to themselves, and it is the government that is doing this. That's how they threw the back door. They took over Ajib. Now they are taking over Shell, and they said it's Renaissance and a consortium that we do not understand. And there's no Niger Delta in the board of Renaissance. These things will not work. Until you
Okay.
involve the real people, these things will not work.
Now
Involve the real people.
you've mentioned a number of flukes, a number of projects that have not succeeded in the past, and what I see here is an active, lack of community participation in projects. Now, what do you think going forward that you as a leader in the Niger Delta can do to ensure that you have community participation in such projects that are meant to better the lot of your people? Or what have you done in the past by way of trying to increase community participation in these efforts?
Okay, so people don't like those who tell them the truth. And I'll give you a very simple example. And I'm not sorry to say this, but I'll just say it. The NDDC, which ordinarily is supposed to be an interventionist agency, we're not talking about NDDC. I want to tell you what goes on here. So I've been invited to a few of their programs, and in the year 2023, when the president came in, August 13th, through the back door, the Nigerian Senate, in less than 2 minutes, okayed he came up with a bill for an act and said any NDDC that ordinarily has two executive directors, that they've made it three, and the president nominated his person into making it so. And the president assented to it on the 14th of August. Immediately, in less than 24 hours that that thing was passed, I have the documents. So I engaged the NGDC with this. They are keeping it, they are hiding it from Niger Deltans. We do not have two executive directors anymore. We have three executive directors. And that third executive director was the man that that moved from Labour Party to APC and that lost his seat in the Federal House of Representatives in Ondo State, Sunday, Ogungbade, or whatever. So, but that's a fact. Now, they stopped talking about community engagement. Ordinarily, I go there to speak the facts and figures. So what the NDDC does is that whenever they are having such community engagement, they stop giving me invitation. Why? Because whenever I come there, I will not speak for you to clap for me. I will tell you what I know that you're not doing right. So same thing now applies. These people that are coming in, they will avoid people like us to engage. They will go to the businessmen to engage. I am not a businessman. I like money, but the truth must be said. I cannot live in the Niger Delta. Our lives are cut short because of oil and gas activities. Something that ordinarily should be a blessing to us is now a cost to us. And a lot of what I...
Now, in closing, a lot of us, I know where you're heading to, want to see a better Nigeria where host communities get their due diligence. The lives of Niger Deltans are better for the curse of having to carry this black gold. In closing, because we have a little less than 2 minutes to wrap up, it's on the host community development core as it pertains to mining leases and licensing. There are many calls from Niger Deltans like yourself who have been previous guests on the program that we become active players in our own backyard. Let's just have that parting shot in less than a minute as we say our goodbyes this morning.
Okay, so I'll put it like this. In 2021, there was big rounds that went on, and I came up with a suggestion. Then we lost OMF 46, which is Atala oil field, in Bayelsa State, originally owned by Bayelsa State. And we had a petroleum minister then, who is from Bayelsa State. I don't know what he did. Now, our people, when they give them small money or position, they sell out, and that is on us anyways. Today again, another big rounds are coming. We have about 4 in Edo State, about 50 something bid rounds or so, or there about 20 something, and the chunk of them are in Rivers, Akwa Ibom, and Bayelsa, but about 4 or so in Edo State. Why can't the locals have all that? I have also suggested to the Niger Delta governors, that go ahead and create oil companies and bid for this state. But you see, the Minister of Petroleum will have to make his recommendation, but the buck stops with the President of Nigeria. Once he gets that, what will he do? They will send it to the Yorubas. They will give it to those who they see, and will continue to become pipeline, security to these people. So the real thing is that engage the locals. And do I have 2 billion naira or 5 billion naira for signature bonus? No. Am I connected to them politically? But I have the needed or congruent ingredients to own any of these oil fields and man it superbly well and produce to people.
All right, Mr. Obu.
Yeah,
we are short of time because we have to move to the next live program. So we would like to say very much thank you to you for having joined, and your discussions have been very enriching to our conversation. We do hope that you'll be able to join us sometime very soon to make more appraisals on where we are heading with community engagements, with cleaning up the environment in the Niger Delta, and of course with bettering the lot of the youth in the Niger Delta.
Well, thank you once again, Maobuye Nangi Obu, the Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide, who has joined us to talk about the new heads for oil regulations and also matters arising in Nigeria's energy sector.